Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world, 2023 has been a complete and total shit show, but we are ending it with fun, with positivity, with wisdom, and with our annual Festivus visit from our dear friend, the great and powerful Jason Alexander is back. Welcome back, sir.
Great and powerful. Wow. I'm adding that to my resume from now on.
I think every year you react similarly because this is the fourth time. Our
Yes.
fourth time.
And I'll tell you something. I don't think I've done anybody's podcast other than yours twice. So you must have some secret sauce. That's all I can say.
I am humbled. I am grateful. I look forward to it. Our audience looks forward to it. But it tis the season, and
Now, can
and
I ask you a question? Can you said my audience looks forward to it. And that to me sounds like, when a politician says, Americans want, and I go, they haven't asked Americans. They don't know what Americans want. How do you know your audience wants what? Do you
everywhere.
get emails? Do you take a poll?
Emails, Patreon. I have family that stops me on the holidays and says like, that guy is great. I'm so inspired. My mother-in-law and father-in-law. I mean, obviously, they're a special kind of audience, but I do think that people really look forward to hearing from you, especially because the world is so crazy. And when you and I talk, we have real conversations. You've been great about fatherhood, about Trump, about everything. So people, yes,
Thank you,
people
brother.
very much look forward to it.
Well, I wish that was true in my family, but God bless.
Well, I'm happy to talk to them and convince them. We can try to do some push polling. But let me ask you, sir, a belated happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
This will air after Festivus, so a belated happy Festivus.
Thank
But I
you.
want to ask you, as I do every year, where are you and how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I am currently in my home in Los Angeles after a bunch of traveling. I was starting to tell you, you may hear some knocking and banging and multiple voices in Spanish because once again, we're doing a home improvement project. I think the last time I talked to you, we had just finished the bathroom in my bedroom, which was a total redo. It took 9 months, and much like an actual pregnancy, I remember my wife as pregnant going, "We're never doing this again," and then of course in the delivery going, "Oh, I hate you. We're never doing this again. We're never doing this again." And then they give you the baby, and they go, "Oh, I want another." And that's how it worked in my house. We did the bathroom, kicking and screaming. "I hate this. We're never doing this again. Hell with these guys. No, blah, 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 blah." And then it came out really beautifully. And my wife goes, the kitchen could really use it. So we have been literally, we started in the end of May. So what is it, 8 months? We've been working on the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's almost done. They said Halloween, then they said Thanksgiving, then they said Christmas. We're hoping for President's Day.
Well, speaking of political responses, that kind of sounds like Trump's wall, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's going to be done soon. Every
Yeah.
time I talk to you, it's kind of under construction, and people just want more and more, and they never quite get finished with this thing.
No, and much like that wall and my cooking, it's not really effective. It's not really going to help.
Well, I am happy that the progress continues. I am been so grateful to see your voice out there on many issues and your candor and your wisdom because America and the world feels like it's on fire. And I've said this to a number of folks, but I really I want to emphasize it with you, Jason. I think people just need to hear from people who make sense, who have wisdom, who have experience, and you have all of those things. So I mean, it's kind of a big question to start with, but can you tell us, how do you see the world right now? I mean, it's the holiday season. You talk to your grandchildren. Can you help us? And I also want to reflect on the fact that we also lost a dear friend, Norman Lear, recently, who I know you posted about, and I was honored to have on this show around his birthday for maybe my favorite conversation ever. I love Norman so deeply, but I would often ask Norman, what do we do? Where do we go? What do you see? And I feel like we all have to carry a little bit of that legacy forward now in honor of Norman. But Jason, the world, what do
Yeah.
you think?
Well, good. Small topic. Let's let's jump into it. Um, Paul, your assessment is, as always, spot on. There is a lot to be deeply concerned about. Many people are frightened. Many people are existentially frightened and see true destruction. There is true destruction going on in the world. We all know that. And real despair and real pain. And all of that engenders a great deal of either hopelessness or resignation. And it's easy to give into that. And I am a student of some people, like a gentleman who online, his name is Sadhguru, who I've been taking enormous comfort from and teaching from. And here's what I can tell you as I continue to talk to people in this environment. What we often forget, at the end of the day, all of us want almost the exact same thing. All these arguments, all this crisis, it is about where the division in how we think we can arrive at those same things, and our fear that I won't get the thing I want if you get the thing that you want.
Mhm.
That is at the heart of all of this. So I take comfort in knowing that the person across from me in any given conversation, with whom I seem to have no common ground, no shared humanity, here's what we both want. We would both like to be healthy. We'd like to feel good in our bodies and in our minds, and in our emotional life. We would like to feel excited by the prospect of something we get to do, whether that be our work, our play, our travel, our family, our love life, whatever it is. We would all like to feel engaged and excited. We would all like to feel safe, safe in our beds, in our homes, in our property, in our communities, and safer in the world. We would all like to feel seen and respected for something that we do, that we bring something to the table of the world that has value, and it gets recognized and we are appreciated. We all want to be loved to some degree, loved and liked and accepted. And the last thing I always put on that list is we all want to be able to go to bed at night feeling like we had a good day. We're not concerned about how I'm going to eat tomorrow, or will I be able to be warm or cool or clothed or, get the thing I need. And that tomorrow at least holds the possibility of being even better than today. We all want that. What we think we need to achieve that may differ. And even when we think they differ, there's similarity. Where most of the disparity comes from is what we think we need to do or create in order to achieve those goals. So I think we may have talked about this before. I had a wonderful conversation with a gun owner in Colorado. Now, I don't own guns, and I'm a big gun control guy. I think that would be a positive thing. This man approached me and he said, you don't understand what's going on with me and this guy. And I said, well, tell me about it. Why, you've got an AK-47 or an AK-15, I can't remember what it is. And, tell me about that. Why is that important to you? And he goes, well, where I live, if something goes down, I call 911. I have no reasonable expectation of anybody showing up for 15, 20, 30 minutes. I want to feel safe in my home and my property. I want to protect my family and my community. This is a tool for me, and it gives me that comfort and gives me that security. And I don't want you to come and take it away from me. And I said, well, I totally get that. I totally understand that. And that's a reasonable, that's a reasonable response. Now, the one argument I might make with you is, I don't know why you can't achieve that with a gun that is less of a killing machine, but okay, I don't know guns and I don't know your situation. Maybe you're in a really bad community. I don't know. But I totally understand what you're saying. I said, you know what? I want the same thing. I want to feel safe in my bed, my home, my property, my community. Problem in my community is, first of all, I do have a reasonable expectation if I call 911, somebody's coming. Second of all, there are so many more people packed into such small spaces with such disparities going on in their lives and misunderstandings and all kinds of things that could cause a temporary madness or insanity or rage, that these things, the more of them there are, the more dangerous it is for me, not the less. But I totally understand. You and I both want to feel safe, and that's our goal, and we should have the right to do that. But we need different things about this. We need different realities about this same thing in order for us to have the same thing. So isn't there, I said, you don't want that gun in the hand of somebody who shouldn't have it. You don't want it in a person who's having mental health issues. You don't want it in someone who is mad at the world and is going to take it out on everybody around them. You don't want it in the hands of somebody who would hurt you. You don't want that even playing field. That's not good for you. That doesn't add to your safety. Neither do I. So what can we do? Can we have background checks to see if we can weed out the felons and the domestic abusers and maybe the mental health issues? Can we insist on certain kinds of safety precautions? Can you get a license for that so that you have to prove every year or 2 years that you know how to handle and secure this very important weapon? I'm sure we can do that in a way that will get you what you need and make the world safer for me at the same time. And he and I walked away as friends and went, man, yeah, right? And I go, so here's the crazy thing. If you and I can have this conversation and find common ground, why can't we elect people who can actually change things, who can also have this conversation and find common ground? This shouldn't be this hard. But that's what I mean about if you engage with people, you find that at the end of the day, we all want the same things. So when you look at the world, you look at what's going on in our politics, you look at what's going on in the Middle East, all these, unfathomable problems for which there seems to be no real solution. Well, yeah, if you look at it in the macro, sure. But when you get it down to, it's just people. It's just people who kind of want, at the end of the day, they want the same thing. Shouldn't we be able to find a way to get there? And in our politics right now, I don't think the Trumpers want chaos. I really don't. I don't think they want the kind of potential end of our democracy that is forecasted in a truly Trumpian second presidency. They may be really upset with the institutions and the systems that are here in place now because they're not functioning correctly for them. But I don't think they want anarchy. I don't think they want chaos. I don't think they want to live in an Iran or in a Russia. I don't think that's wired into the American system. And it's just a question of going, you realize this man doesn't care about the betterment of your life. He truly doesn't. If that's a byproduct of the betterment of his life, great. But he only cares about the betterment of his life. And I don't know what else he can do to prove that to you. But he does not care about you. Listen, I'm trying to think of guys who are like Trump light. Even DeSantis, who I'm not a fan of, cares more about people than Donald Trump. It would be at least a more reasonable.
How about Elon? Does Elon care about people more than Trump?
So here's the thing. I don't know.
You've been outspoken about Elon too, and I think
Yeah,
that there's a common thread here, which I think is really important, which is leadership. You've been a bridge builder. You've been a peacemaker. You went to the Middle East years ago and worked on conflict resolution and peace building. But we've also got this void of leadership, and we've got so many bad leaders out in front, right? Like, so it has really become in fights with Putin, in fights with Hamas, it's good versus evil, and clarifying that through leadership, I think, is important. And I wanted to ask you, I want you to hit on Elon, because I can't have you on the show without talking about Elon, without talking about Trump. But what you've been great at too is storytelling the humanity and making things human at a time where it feels like they're not. And have you seen Leave the World Behind, the film on Netflix?
I have not.
Okay, so you must watch it. Everyone's talking about it.
That's Julia
Basically,
Roberts, right? Is that
it's
her film?
Julia Roberts, right? It's Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And the long story short is it's kind of like Israel on steroids, but it's America. Israel was so deep into their own internal conflict, they were susceptible to this massive attack. So at some point in the near future, America is so divided and so distracted that our enemies gang up on us, isolate us, and let us kill each other, right?
Yeah.
And the world falls from within, which is, to me, it's such a powerful pop culture piece because it felt to me like the day after felt when I was a kid. If my kid saw this,
Yeah.
he would be terrified about this potential reality that we could see happening in the same way when I was a kid. It felt like a nuke attack could happen. We could see, a nuclear winter and all of that. So I ask you that in part because it feels like entertainment is so powerful now, and voices from entertainment are so powerful right now. And so many in politics want to be entertainers. I mean, Elon thinks he's a bad guy in a movie. Maybe he thinks he's the good guy. But I guess it's a long-winded way of asking you about the leaders and about the messages and about the leadership that we're seeing. And maybe we can start with Elon and you can take it from, from there.
Well, I've been a little outspoken about Elon. The truth is, he and I only kind of crossed swords when it came to the policies on Twitter,
Right.
or on X, if you want to give him his due. And really, we got into a pissing match when I said, "Look, here's the deal: if you are going to start charging for this and offer nothing, if you are going to start giving, I worked very hard to get verified in my social media accounts. There's two reasons for that. One is I wanted an audience that cared about hearing from me to know that they were hearing from me. And second was I didn't want to be misrepresented by somebody else. There's lots of people out there claiming to be me. I've seen those phony accounts. And I wanted to have some place where I could go, no, this one is me. I went and got that verified.
Right.
Now I believe half of what our problem is on social media, and I know this is a controversial viewpoint. I think everyone should be verified on social media. I think you should be accountable for the things you say out in the marketplace of public opinion. To me, 3/4 of the madness going on our social media is anonymity. It's trolls and bots and people who would never say these things to you if they had to look you in the face and be accountable for it. Suddenly, their inner demons are freed to do this because there is no repercussion. That's a big problem. So my problem with Elon was there. I have heard, I know nothing of this. So I'm not making this as a claim. There have been some people who've said that Elon Musk may be on the spectrum, of some sort of not quite connecting with people the way perhaps someone with an Asperger's or an autism might, and that could maybe account for some of the vagaries of his behaviors. Or not. I mean, I don't mean to put that on people
Or
who
he
are.
could be a sociopathic asshole.
He could. He
Right,
could.
right,
I mean, really,
right,
he could.
right.
Here's the problem. There's always going to be Elon Musk's. That's a guy with a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of influence. The Elon Musk is a problem. The problem is the system allows Elon Musk to do the worst of him.
Yeah.
The things he is doing, I'm not worried about Twitter. I'm worried about the fact that what's the percentage of our satellites that are Elon Musk controlled? Why would I want to run a government as large as important as the United States of America and go, I don't think that's a problem. Yeah, we'll run our systems through his satellites. We get along. He seems like a good guy. What kind of batshit nut job stuff is that? So that's where I worry about Musk. As I would worry about if Elon Musk was the greatest guy in the world and we agreed on everything, I'd still be worried about that. How can we invest so heavily in our survival, and now it's real survival, in a single individual and the vagaries of any single individual? So Musk is not, Musk doesn't make me happy. He
Mm,
does
mm.
not. He makes choices I do not understand. Um, why any person would make those choices, and because of his influence, they're enormous. But ultimately, I don't blame him. I blame the people above him that have enabled him to do the things he's doing. Um, and I cannot account for those choices. I don't understand it.
I, I think we're pulling at something that is kind of a theme of 2023, at least for me. I feel like 2023 was a year where we lost a lot of really wise people.
Yeah.
We lost so many mensches. We lost Norman Lear. We lost Rosalind Carter. I mean, the list goes on, right? And at the same time, somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy is elevated. Someone like Elon Musk is elevated. Someone like Trump is created this spawn of Trump, all these other elements. So it feels like a time where leadership is lacking, and leadership that communicates the importance of all the things you talked about in the beginning about humanity. And I talked with General McCaffrey and General Petraeus about the contrast between Zelensky and Netanyahu, right? And how I think that's impacting the storytelling component of these two conflicts. But you did what I think was maybe the most important piece of content one of the most impactful pieces of content I've seen about Israel and Gaza. We're all awash in it, right? And it's been dividing America, it's been dividing the world, but you did something very human. You looked at the camera and you said, this is me at 9 years old, and this is Ohad at 9 years old. He's 9 years old. He's a hostage. Let me speak in his voice, which was so powerful. I live near the Holocaust memorial, where is a living history, and the storytelling is so important. I have an 8-year-old, and it resonated with me. Can you talk about why you did that, Jason, and how you feel about this and the rise in anti-Semitism in America and around the world specifically, and how you've seen it through your eyes?
The Ohad video took a bit of thinking. It really did. I wish I could say, oh, it was an immediate yes. I would love to be that person. But the reason I had to think it through is because because of my experiences in the Middle East, I am so in conflict with myself about what to do, what to say, what to think. A terrible atrocity was foisted upon Israel. And in response, an even potentially greater monstrosity is happening to the people of Palestine. Um, it is near impossible to show some compassion and support to one side without antagonizing the other side. You know, and you're searching for moral equivalencies, and you're searching for the words, and it feels like no matter where you put your thumbprint, you're upsetting, antagonizing, alienating a whole bunch of people. And I did not want to do that because I feel I have such connection and compassion for both Israelis and Palestinians. I was lucky enough to be invited into Palestine. I have spoken with many, many Palestinians. I've understood some of what the day-to-day reality is for them. And it is so clear to me that Israel has made some horrible mistakes by continuing to support the leadership of Netanyahu. And of course, Palestine and Gaza in particular have been horribly misserved by putting their support into Hamas. So you're torn. And then somebody says, my 9-year-old son is in the hands of terrorists, and nobody is asking them for their humanity to please let a child go. Would you help us? And I just had to put all those other considerations aside and go, I'm a father. If this were my child, my grandchild, how do you say no? And it wasn't a political message. It was, please, this is a 9-year-old boy. He did nothing to you. He's not part of this fight. Let a kid go home. You've already devastated his life. This is a trauma forever. He will never forget this. People in his family have been destroyed. His home has been destroyed. Let the child go. I could not do that message. I couldn't not do that message. So, you know, there's a paparazzi guy on a block not far from here where I live. And he's actually a really sweet guy. I've talked to him many, many times. And, you know, he came up to me a couple weeks ago. I was over there and said, Jason, Palestine, Israel, oh, you know, and I'm going, why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? Why, you know, he goes, you got nothing to say? You got nothing to say? And I said, look, here's all I'm going to say. And I hope that everyone understands it. When we all love our children more than anything else, more than justice, more than vengeance, more than land, more than blood, more than history, more than tribe, more than anything, when we love our children more than anything else, I think this will stop. But we're not there. We're willing to sacrifice our children for whatever we think is more important. And I don't know anything more important. That's all I can say about that. What is happening when you say the rise of anti-Semitism, it hasn't risen. It's just been giving a mouth. The attitudes of people who are espousing anti-Semitism or anti-Islamophobia, whatever it might be, those things aren't gone. They're not gone. You can't have someone who doesn't like Jews, and just because he doesn't mention it on Thursday, he's a good guy, and on Friday there's a rise of anti-Semitism. What has happened is conditions have given people a way to think of it as a righteous statement. And there is never righteousness in the condemnation of a group of people who are not all involved in the same thing. So to say, I don't like what Israel's been doing for the last 50 years, therefore I hate the Jews. Well, I could show you thousands and thousands of Jews who don't like what Israel's been doing either. So what do you got against us? My real response to anti-Semitism in particular is I keep going, again, still? That's your go-to? Can't you at least get creative? Hate the Albanians for a minute. I mean, you know, why? It's always, the Jews are small in number throughout the history of recorded time. We are like such a team, 2%, I think, of the world population at our most flourishing moments. We're the problem, but the whole world, we're it. Wow, you guys really have given us a lot of power. we are the shit, I gotta tell you. And I don't get the memos as, you know, super Jew. I don't, nobody's telling me when the next meeting is for world domination. So I actually don't think anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism. I think it falls into the same category as every other kind of alienation that one person or one group of people does to another in order to make themselves feel better about who and what they are and what they're doing. The world is hell. Oh, the Israelis are the problem. The Israelis are occupiers. The Israelis, I said to a college student the other day, who was talking about how Israel was formed and what happened to the Palestinians. And I go, well, listen, I'm no student of history, but I'm not sure everything the way you're clocking it is exactly the way it went down. But let's give you the benefit of the doubt. The Israelis usurped that land with the help of the British and blah, 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 blah. Okay, terrible, right? Terrible. So please name me the country that didn't come into creation in the exact same way. I'm waiting for it. And by the one you're standing in is also guilty. So what do we do? How do we, what do you want to do? What do you want the Israelis to do that you're not willing to do because you friggin' stole this land without anybody going, I decree it to you, the way at least Britain did to Israel. You stole this land. You murdered people. You displaced them. It was a massacre. And you continue to do it today, and you make virtually no reparations to the people who did. What are we going to do? We have to deal with the realities we have. There's only one solution to the Middle East. We must have a free, independent, peaceful Jewish state of Israel. We must have a free, independent Palestinian state of Palestine. They must find a way to share their resources. They must find a way to live side by side. They don't have to be friends. They just have to be neighbors who look the other way. That is what I went to the Middle East for back in 1990 and had tried and have been trying to do ever since. It is doable. The people live it. Everybody goes, what are you going to do with Jerusalem? They were living it. There was an East Jerusalem and a West Jerusalem. You knew who was in charge of each side. You went back and forth. You were respectful of each other's. It was done. You know, the supposedly impossible, the impossible reckonings that would have to be had to create peace. The people were doing it. The leadership couldn't figure it out. And the thing I was working for, one voice was saying, hey, leaders, shut the hell up. The people will do it. We'll get it done. So,
Jason, that's a point I have to get your opinion on, because I think Netanyahu has failed the people of Israel. Trump has failed the people of America. Hamas has failed the people of Palestine. And now, it's up to leaders to try to make sense of this and figure it out. You've been a supporter of Joe Biden. You've been an outspoken advocate for Democrats over the years. Can I just get your no shit take on Joe Biden right now? I mean, he's obviously down in the polls. Some want him to drop out. You see somebody like RFK Jr. is now getting 20%. We don't know who the Republican nominee is, but we assume it's going to be Trump. Just as you, I mean, what's your take on Biden right now and where this is going?
I don't know how anyone looks at, meets, talks to, sees the history of Joe Biden, who's made mistakes, but haven't we all, and doesn't think there's a good man there. There's a guy who cares about his country. There's a guy who's been in public service. There's a real human being there, right? So on a personal level, I really like Joe Biden. I think he's a good egg, I think he's been, in many ways, a very effective president. I think he came in turmoil with some enormous historic challenges to the survival of our country and has navigated many of them brilliantly, or his team has. I know a president's just a guy that's got a team. There are some that have been challenges for my entire lifetime that he has not cracked. He hasn't cracked immigration. I'd be happy for the ideas that will do it. He's actually, under his administration, the inflation rate has dropped quite a bit. But nobody understands how presidents have very little to do with, presidents get nailed with economies, but the truth is, in America, presidents have so little power to tinker with the economy and its results. So I think he's done an admirable job of that as well. I'm not sure how the world sees America through his leadership, but I know that he is standing up to Russia. I know that he is supporting Ukraine. I know he is walking a tightrope of support with Israel. I think he's doing a good job as an international leader. Could I see him stepping down? Sure. I think the presidency is challenging for a man in his 50s, let alone a man in his 80s. It is the hardest job in the world. You see what it does to people. It ages them rapidly. But here's the question I always ask my friends who are saying he should step down. For who to step up? Who's that person? I think we have talent in our party. I think we have tremendous leadership and talent in our party, but they don't yet have the energy, the sort of existential energy, the knowledge, the input, to get Democrats to vote for them in the national election, or forget it. Democrats are going to vote for Democrats most of the time. To get those independents that go, I don't know what to do. I don't know who the Democrat is that comes out of the ether at this moment and goes, that's the guy. It would be like going, maybe, I don't know much about this guy right now or this woman right now, but So if there was somebody extraordinary waiting in the wings, I could make a case for going to Joe Biden and going, Mr. President, maybe it's time. But I don't know who that person is.
Yeah.
So what I would say to most people who are dubious about Joe Biden is I like his team. I think Anthony Blinken is great. I think Buttigieg is great. I think Merrick Garland is doing an admirable job. People have some issues with him, but I think it's certainly an ethical job. Um, I do not want. I don't. I actually think Nikki Haley is a decent human being. I think Nikki Haley is a smart, decent human being. If she were the nominee, I would sleep a little easier at night.
Mhm.
But I don't want Nikki Haley putting another Supreme Court justice in either. I think our Supreme Court has become such a political tool as opposed to a judicial tool that if that goes any further in a politicized direction, if we don't find some balance, I truly, truly fear for the country going forward in the next couple of decades. So, um,
I agree with you. I mean,
I'm, yeah,
I think you're practical about it, and I think
yeah.
pragmatism is kind of dead in America too. I mean, the reality is Joe Biden is weak and he's old and he's got lots of problems, but he's better than the fascist who tried to overthrow the government. And what I've said is I think that you're right. Until someone presents an alternative, some people are going to splinter off to third party candidates, especially independents, which could be a challenge. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to come home to Biden. I really do. And I think
And
that's the question before America right now. And I don't think, I'm on cable news and I'm talking to these people that are in the ecosphere. And I don't think they really understand. At the end of the day, people are going to go, yeah, this guy sucks. This guy sucks more. I'm going with this guy.
And
Right.
I try to talk to young voters, especially college kids, and I go, look, your issues with Biden and the Democrats there's validity there. There's no question, and I think you've got some fights to fight, and you got to create a new crop of leaders. But if it ain't Biden this time, I don't know that anything you do down the road is going to matter at all because we have a real possibility of ending democracy as you and I know it.
Yeah.
And I go, hold your nose and vote for the guy who's at least pro-democracy.
Be practical. Yeah, this is a
Get
time
through
when a
4 years
lot of
of
young
him,
people,
and then you can, start
I
building
mean,
the
a lot of young people, I'd say young people, but a lot of young people are cutting their nose off to spite their face. And it's a time for wisdom. It's a time for perspective. So let me ask you a final question,
Yeah.
building on this entire conversation we've had. You remember the old Police song or the Sting song? I hope the Russians love their children too.
Yeah.
Right? The Cold War song, the great song. I think this point about the children and young people is so critical. And I want to invoke a little bit of the wisdom of Norman Lear and so many others and ask you, Jason, for a holiday message, a Festivus message to the young people of the world. From the wise and learned Jason Alexander, what is your holiday message? This will air before New Year. And as we go into 2024, what is your end of year, New Year message to the young people of the world?
So I preface this by saying that the world has changed for me because I have a 14-month-old grandson.
A 14-month-old grandson.
14-month-old. That's how I say it. And I can't even account for the feelings that are attached to that and how I rejoice and how I worry about what we're handing this little boy. So I guess what I would say to the younger folk, it's what I say when I direct sometimes. I go, don't make a problem, solve a problem.
Mm.
It's really easy to bitch and moan and gripe about the injustices and the stupidities and the things we get wrong. Bitching and moaning and griping makes a problem. It makes a problem bigger. To solve it, you have to actually do some work. And what I fear about more than anything for everyone, but certainly for younger people who are growing up in this, is the empowerment of technology as a replacement for critical thinking and real learning, and real engagement. I remember, I think you and I may have talked about this. When my son Gabe was 14 years old, I saw him in his room on his computer one time, clacking away. And I said, "What are you doing, Gabe?" And he said, "I'm talking to my friends." And I said, "Do you realize not one word of that sentence is true? You're not talking." That's number one. They are not getting your voice. They're not seeing, they're not, because it was not Zoom. They're not seeing your face. They're not really getting you. You're not saying anything. So it's not talking, and your friends, if I put these people in a lineup, would you be able to pick them out? Or are they just, something that exists out in the ether of someone you've connected with through this machine? That is a real reality for a lot of young people. They are more concerned with how they are perceived by a multitude of strangers than they are by the people in their immediate community. They are more concerned in some ways about affecting that larger community of strangers, impacting them, than they are about the people in their own community. I love magic. I love illusion. It's an illusion. And if you invest in the illusion, you will find that you have sacrificed reality. It is easy to walk in a circle and hold a sign and yell a phrase and say, "I've engaged in the political system." And there is power to that. That's a real thing. I don't mean to negate it. But really reading about, studying, talking to people who are engaged with an issue, engaged in a system, to go, what are the challenges? What are you working on? Who are you? What is available to us? How can I participate to make something better that requires my real time and commitment, whether it be me working in the field or me thinking beyond a Google answer? If you don't get engaged to that level, if the technology is going to take us to the future, then humanity is gone. When I hear college professors saying, no, we don't allow college students to write a paper through AI, but we do allow AI to do the outline for them, I go, why? Outlining is such a critical part of thinking. How am I going to present and set up my argument, my presentation, my idea? That is such critical growth for a young mind. Why would you allow a machine to do it? So it is easy to despair if you're a young person. You see a world that is critically challenged. Is there going to be literally an atmosphere 15 years from now? Are we going to have land masses? Are we going to have ecosystems? Are we going to have animals and plants to the variety and degree that we have now? Are our jobs going to be replaced by technology? How will we make a living? What will we know as truth? What will we know as lies? Is it literally the Matrix where they're just going in and entertaining us and letting us yell into the void and thinking that we're alive? Well, all that is possible, and all of that is preventable. There's a grand solution for every problem. If you solve the problem, don't make the problem. Bitching and moaning is making the problem. Finding out how you can work to make something better, and stop trying to save the world. Save your block. Get involved with the people on your block. What's going on with them, or in your dorm, or in your school, whatever it is. Small chunks, because remember what I said at the beginning of this. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. The most essential thing, I want to feel good, safe, seen, respected, and hopeful in my home and my community. That's where it begins. Those homes and those communities, side by side, make up the world. Save your home, save your community, get involved, get engaged. Don't let the machines do the work. Don't believe everything you hear. Google gives you the most popular answer, not the right answer. You got to dig. And the world, I actually believe, I really do believe, 25 years from now, if I'm alive to see it, we're going to be in a great place.
Mm,
I think a lot of what we're getting is the dying off of the 20th century, which really does not resemble the 21st century. The children of the 21st century are going to take it where it wants to go and where it needs to go. We're kind of holding them back a little bit. But I believe in the kids. I think they are honestly the light. I think my little 14-month-year-old grandson is part of that light. And I'm going to give them and him every bit of resource and every bit of myself that I can to empower them to light that light and lead the way.
mm. Thank you. That is a perfect message to conclude Hanukkah and Christmas and the year and go into a new year. Your wisdom and your energy and your love is so valuable and appreciated and celebrated and contagious. So you are always the perfect guest to end the year and start a new one. I am so grateful for everything you've shared with us and everything you do. I hope you'll come back next year. Maybe the construction will be done by then.
Paul, I'm just going to tell you, first of all that back to you, and you know, you can air this or not air this. The reason I'm on your show as often as I am is I truly adore you as a human being, and I so admire and respect what you put out in the world. You are one of my personal heroes, and the fact that you call on me like this and think so highly of me is so flattering and so rewarding to me. I truly adore you. I wish all the good things back to you and your family and your audience. And what can I say, brother? I salute you and I thank you.
Thank you for all of that, my friend. I love you back. And I've been thinking a lot about Norman and his life and his example. I think he would be very happy to know we've had this conversation and we're sharing it and we're sharing the light. Thank you for all you do, my friend. Very, very happy New Year. Happy Festivus, and stay vigilant until next time.
Serenity now.